I'm in Wiltshire today at a Second World War munitions bunker, checking out this amazing electric Cobra. Is it going to be explosive? Let's find out. So here she is. She's a beaut, isn't she? That is amazing. So here she is. Matt, this is amazing. Obviously I saw this car first on Facebook. You'd written a post in one of the EV conversion groups, and you rolled off the spec list, and I was like, I need to come and see this vehicle. And after a few months, I'm finally here. Tell us where it all began. Tell us the spec. Tell us everything.
I've been very fortunate with this project in that the couple I built it for have basically not been too concerned about the cost. So I've been able to build it with no real concern other than doing it in the best way possible. So that's enabled me to do something that's got such a comprehensive spec. Where we started on this 3 years ago, they wanted an interesting car, they wanted something interesting electric. We talked about doing E-Type conversions and bits and pieces, but eventually in fact we got to the point of even looking at a couple of E-Types, but all of them either needing restoration first, which would have been thousands of hours before you could even start the electric side of it, or getting an E-Type that was already quite good, which to me didn't feel quite right to be chopping one up. So then we started looking at other options, and then the idea of the Cobra came up. So at that point started to then talk to different Cobra manufacturers, look at different kits that were available in terms of the platform to start with. And this is based on Crendon. So Crendon are quite a well-known Cobra manufacturer. So that was a starting point, basically buying a chassis from Crendon, just a completely bare chassis, and then trying to figure out how to start incorporating any kind of EV stuff into it.
No, absolutely. And the thing that might puzzle a lot of people is the fact that it's a 24 plate. When was this actually registered, Matt?
A couple of months ago, back in July.
Wow, okay.
And to my knowledge, it's the only kind of privateer build 2024 plate EV. I've not seen any others come up. So it's gone through the whole process of going to MIRA for full R100 inspection, pre-IVA. So it's gone through the same process that Honda or Ford would have had to have gone through to get one of their cars on the road.
I mean, take us through that.
It's not particularly complex. The difficulty isn't the challenge of doing it, the difficulty is paying for it, because it's a very, very expensive process. I haven't checked recently, but at the time when this went to MIRA, their list price for that inspection was £6,000 plus VAT. So the actual complexity of it was straightforward. The things they were actually testing when we were there were very simple. If you've built a reasonably decent EV conversion, it will pass the test. It's stickers, it's making sure fingers can't go into sockets by accident, some basic insulation tests. It's very simple. They don't open battery boxes. It's very, very, very simple. MIRA were really good in advance. I had contact with the engineer, so I was sending videos and photos. So even pre-going there, I'd had a few hints about what things I needed to do. But the actual test on the day was very, very straightforward. But paying for it a little bit less so. I was very fortunate in that my customer wasn't overly concerned about the cost of that. But that is obviously a deal breaker for a lot of people, paying £6,000 plus VAT for that.
What is the motor on this particular?
Okay, so it's a Tesla large drive unit in the rear. There's 3 battery boxes, so there was certainly no issue with that with MIRA. It was one cost for one test. It wasn't per battery box.
Okay, interesting.
They've not opened any battery boxes either, so most people think that's a big part of the safety, and you kind of almost like to think that they should, but the reality is they haven't. They don't open the battery boxes. They do some insulation tests, and they check the plugs, and that's it. So there's a battery box underneath the rear where the fuel tank would have been, with 2 Tesla modules in it. There's another 2 Tesla modules here in the transmission tunnel, and then there's 8 in the box in the front. So there's 12 Tesla 5.3 kilowatt modules in the vehicle. What
made you go down the route of Tesla battery modules?
I think as much as anything, it's the timing. Bear in mind, this is 3 years ago. So at that point, the market wasn't quite as advanced as it is now. Really, most people were only sort of using Tesla modules back then. I do remember talking to Chris at Zero EV quite a lot at the beginning of the project, and actually Chris advised against it at that point. He had sort of difference of opinion in terms of what modules to use. 3 years ago, I can't exactly remember why that decision was made. They were readily available, although more expensive than they are now. They're quite reasonably easy to package, I felt, and reasonably easy to sort of fit into the space that I wanted to fit. So yeah, I think I think that was basically my decision process at the time. I actually do think one of the things I might do differently if I was to do another one of these would look at other options for batteries.
Okay.
The Tesla batteries are good, but I found the amount of wiring that's needed for the BMS and some of the fragility around them, I think there may be better options now potentially. And also to get a higher voltage, there's some other options available.
So did you go for a liquid-cooled battery pack?
Yeah, so there's a cooling loop. There's 2 different cooling loops on the vehicles, two all complete separate radiator, separate cooling system for the batteries, and a separate one for the inverter.
Yeah, okay.
Which you'll see when we look under the bonnet. So there's 2 separate cooling loops.
And what sort of controller did you use on the motor and batteries?
So it's on the inverter, it's using the Open Inverter Forum logic board.
Yep.
And on the batteries, it's a Orion 2 BMS.
And did you find it quite difficult to program? Did you use Open Inverter Forum? What helped you kind of make it all work?
Not too difficult. The difficult with each of the systems, all of those systems have their own diagram, so that part isn't difficult. What there isn't ever going to be is one diagram that shows how all your separate components are going to link together.
Yeah.
So that part I found certainly challenging. The diagrams are out there if you're willing to sit down and work through diagrams. There's another guy, Charlie Smurthwaite, thank you very much. He lives around the corner from me. He's built a VX220.
Yes. Yes.
And he's very familiar with the software and has had some involvement in the development of the software. And just by total coincidence, lives around the corner from me. So he was able to come and help me at a few points where I did get stuck. Zero EV have also been helpful, and there's plenty of knowledge on the forums and stuff. So yeah, and there certainly were times where I did grind to a halt with things and got very stuck. Had issues, all of my own causing. Chris Hazel will know that I've went through a couple of CCS contactor controllers. Yep. Again, totally due to a wiring fault of my own. And he was very good in sort of supporting me getting those up and running and sorted out. So yeah, at various times there's been issues. I'm very much a mechanical engineer, so like the wiring side of it, for me it's a lot of research, a lot of reading. But it's not insurmountable. I mean, if you're vaguely competent with electronics, it's not too much of a challenge, I wouldn't say.
Do you want to give people just a quick basis of your background? You said electrical engineering, just in terms of what your background is and how it's helped you to build this, what is an absolute fantastic car. Yeah,
so I did an engineering apprenticeship around Heathrow Airport, kind of sort of aeroplane ground support equipment stuff. Started working on cars with friends. Eventually worked in a Rolls-Royce and Bentley garage with a friend of mine, Nigel Sandel, in London. Eventually went to university, did my degree in engineering, then went back to the Rolls-Royce stuff, then went into motorsport, worked in historic racing, then some IndyCar Formula 1 stuff, worked overseas for a bit, then come back, worked for Honda for a bit in chassis research, and now I'm in education. So since then in education, teaching motorsport initially, and now I teach design technology at a very nice school, Bryanston School in Dorset. Spectacular.
Wow, that's a great portfolio you got.
So
there,
this is a part-time thing. So I'm part-time at the school, so I have a day or a day and a half a week on whatever projects I'm doing at the time. So I generally restoration stuff, and this is obviously something slightly different.
No, absolutely. And obviously you mentioned Zero EV a couple of times, which is now Fellten, and it sounds like after having an initial chat earlier that you've been doing this conversion quite a while now. How long has it taken you to get to this really lovely standard?
Yeah, it's almost roughly 3 years, almost, yeah, pretty much exactly 3 years, I would say, to where we are now. And the scene was quite different then. And Zero EV were very, very helpful. Chris actually lent me a large drive unit, a broken one which I could use to mock up the rear suspension and stuff like that.
Oh, wow.
And I bought as much stuff as I could from Chris as well. So yeah, certainly I think their business is slightly different now with a bit more B2B, but certainly back then it was very, Chris had a lot of time and still is very active on the forum. So very good resource. And
you mentioned that a lot of work has gone into the suspension on this vehicle. Was there quite a lot of adaptation you had to make? Was it because of the extra weight in the back? Can you take me through it? Yeah, so the front end of the chassis, it's a ladder frame, it's a 4-inch tubular ladder frame chassis on the Crendons. So imagine sort of 2 tubes coming down the back. The front is pretty much standard. It's the standard kit car with the Jaguar suspension. Yep. But from roughly this point onwards, everything then is custom made to fit the large drive unit. One of the challenges of the large drive unit is the width. Obviously, you look on the back of a Tesla Model S, they are massively wide cars. And I wanted to try to keep
the actual look and feel of the Crendon car as much as possible. So we certainly didn't want to widen the track or anything like that.
Yeah, it's a beautiful shape.
Yeah, so to get it narrow was a massive challenge. So basically, from this point backwards, everything's custom made. Lower wishbone, upper wishbone, upright, all fabricated. All machined, fabricated, all and welded up and put together. So
well, hopefully you can share some pictures, and I'll pop them up on the screen now just to show the level of detail that you've gone into. Because yeah, obviously it's a lot of work that's gone into it, and you made me chuckle with regards to the charging flap there. What did you use for that?
That's off my Peugeot Boxer, my 2005 Peugeot Boxer van.
There we go.
Donated its fuel filler flap to sort of cut and shut and fit that in there. That would have been the original air vent on the Cobra, so
yeah.
Managed to keep the air vent shape, filled the air vent in on the other side.
Yeah.
But there's things like that people don't, there's probably take a couple of weeks work doing that fuel filler flap.
No, I
it's
bet.
very hard to kind of explain how something so small and trivial can take so long.
I mean, the exterior is obviously the classic Cobra shape, which is gorgeous, but let's have a look under the bonnet. Come on, let's have a look at the business under here.
So we deliberately went without the sort of Cobra kind of chrome and the roll hoops and the bumpers. We've tried to keep it a little bit more classic looking,
yeah,
actually.
absolutely.
So it's a little bit less bling or a little bit less boy racer than many. The couple that own this are, more they're not boy racers by any stretch of imagination. They want a more classic, sort of sleek looking vehicle.
I spot the Zero EV, now Fellten CCS controller. Have you tested the CCS controller yet?
Not yet. I mean, it's 300 miles on this so far, so it's something I want to get looking at in the next week or so. It's actually only back to me at the moment to have a tracker and immobiliser fitted for insurance purposes.
Yeah.
So while it's with me, the owner's away for a couple of weeks. During these next 2 weeks, that's sort of one of the things on my list to do. And in fact, even setting up some of the parameters on the large drive unit, it doesn't yet have any regen.
Okay.
So again, there's a few things I need to sort out next couple of weeks.
Yeah, it takes a long time to fettle it to make sure it's drives just right, and obviously depending on what the actual driver likes, depending on what they're used to. For me, one pedal driving, I think I'm going to really want to have in my TVR, but someone who's not used to that might want something different. So yeah, it's all about adapting it to whoever's driving it. So yeah, take me through the battery box and what you've done under here.
Yeah, so basically, this is the high voltage junction box in the top. So basically, everything's kind of crammed into there actually. So if you lifted this off, you'd see the Orion BMS roughly about there. All the contactors sort of laid out through here. A couple of different fuse boxes around doing all the different 12-volt stuff. It's got power steering on it. It's got DC micro steering, power steering. It's got brake vacuums, electric brake vacuum servo and stuff like that. So there's a whole host of 12-volt stuff going on under there as well.
Yeah.
It's got the 6.6 kilowatt onboard charger. DC-DC converter.
Yeah.
You can see the two cooling loops at the front. You can see two radiators. So that on the side you're on, that's the battery. That's where the cooling loop is for the batteries. And on this radiator on this side is a cooling loop for the inverter.
Right. Yeah. So you got two separate systems then, essentially.
Yeah. So there's two. You can just about see them down there. There's two 12-volt pumps, sort of buried, little Bosch 12-volt pumps buried down.
Oh, okay.
Sort of in the depths down there.
And does it keep to the temperatures that you want from what you've noticed so far?
Yeah, I mean, the batteries, I haven't barely moved. The batteries seem to stay at roughly ambient temperature.
Yeah.
The inverter, kind of depending on how you're driving it, I certainly haven't seen it go above about 50 degrees at the moment.
Yeah.
I'll be honest, I wouldn't know what's good or bad, but I think certainly there's parameters set up in the software, I think, to cut out. I don't know, something like 80. I'm not sure.
And what kind of safety systems have you got in place? I mean, it's great to obviously, proper battery boxes, are made out of, is it mild steel?
That's aluminium.
Aluminium,
so this is all machined, this sort of CNC machined,
gorgeous,
all that, just to give it sort of, well, that's using the same infill paint the same paint colour.
Yeah, I did notice that, yeah, very good.
Yeah,
what's the paint colour?
It's a Porsche Burgundy. Yeah. Porsche Burgundy metallic. So the safety-wise, there's a cut loop there.
Let me come around, hang on.
So yeah, if the emergency services would cut through that, and that would basically disconnect all the contactors. Yeah. But effectively disconnects all the batteries. That's sort of the main safety feature. From recollection, it wasn't a requirement. Myra didn't demand that was there. It was something that I put on in discussion again with Zero EV. Yeah.
Well, I think there isn't any kind of particular standard, and it's something that Ralph Hosier is doing, trying to kind of promote, who's doing the TVR build. But yeah, no, it does look really tidy under here, and you know, attention to detail. You said that you've machined quite a few parts for it.
Yeah, so even little things like you can see, like the brackets, little aluminium brackets holding on the you know, little water filler there, you know, the coolant filler. Even that's all little CNC machine and stuff like that. So there's lots of stuff all dotted around the car. There's a little bit of CNC machining, say actually holding on the 2 Bosch 12-volt pumps down there. There's some CNC machine brackets. So lots and lots of work. But I'm very fortunate, I've got access to all the equipment and the ability to do it. So it's, you know, again, it was able to do it, kind of no expense spared in a way. These are the sort of things that Maya were interested in, was very small details like lock wiring on the plugs. So you needed to use 2 different bits of equipment in order to be able to remove a high voltage plug.
Got ya.
That's the sort of stuff. But they're very good about telling you all that stuff. So if you do go the Myra R101 route, it's stuff like that they're looking at. It's nothing particularly complicated.
And what's the boot space like? Because I know something that a lot of EV conversions tend to take up most of the space in the vehicle.
Yeah, I mean, the customer requirement for this, they wanted in range, being able to do some touring with it. So there's been a slight compromise with batteries. I'd like to have had 2 more modules in it than we've actually ended up with.
What's the total kilowatt hour?
So there's 12 modules in it. It was whatever 12 times 5.3 is. I can't remember off the top of my head.
Okay, yeah, about 60 odd then.
But it's slightly undervolted. Ideally, you'd want a little bit more voltage to get all the performance out of the drive unit. It's still quick though. I mean, it's a very light car. So boot space is pretty good.
Yeah, you definitely get a couple of travel bags and a person there, or a man bag.
Yeah. So there's 2 modules directly below this. So if you put 2 more in, it would have wiped out the whole of the boot space. So that's kind of really where.
There's quite a lot of space down the sides there as well.
Yeah, that is sort of being used. It's got a hood, so it's got a hood and a tonneau. So yeah, sometimes you might decide you want to stick the hood in there. Generally, you just drive around with the tonneau covering it, not the hood as well.
Obviously, this is a car that you built for someone else. What is it you would want to convert? Have you got a car in mind? Obviously, after doing this for 3 years, you might be thinking, I never want to do one again.
That's kind of where it started. I mean, the whole kind of project really did start. The people I was doing it for wanted something cool and electric. And at the time, there was a bit of a boom with like the TV and vintage voltage and all that kind of stuff. And I did think there might be some potential business opportunity for this, and there may well be. And as I've gone through, I have made jigs and fixtures, and I've got all the drawings of everything that I've made. So it would be quite easy to do a second one. I've got an Opel GT in the workshop, which I think would make a really cool electric car. So that's
absolutely gorgeous, that thing.
So that's a possibility, but I don't know. It's a very expensive undertaking. That's a reality.
And a couple of very cool toys that you showed me when I arrived, and you said that I could have a go on one. So yeah, hopefully the medical insurance will cover. Something that I wanted to know straight away, especially driving into this area, was what is this place? Because I'm very much into my history, and you gave us a great background of what this actual part of this place is, because it's huge, isn't it, around here?
Yeah.
What is this?
Well, this kind of whole area we're in sort of deepest Wiltshire. This is Chilmark, and in the Second World War, you could just about this is a train station, obviously where we are, and you could just about make out into the distance where the train would have come in through those trees. This is from the main line from London. Yeah. It would have stopped roughly where you're stood, and then it was dropping bombs off, basically. So the bombs would then been transported onto this very small, narrow gauge track. You can just see like the remnants of it in the ground there. And then it disappeared round the back of round the back down about a mile down there, and then it all goes underground. So there's lots of underground bunkers.
Well, anyone that's interested in this place, check out the internet. Apparently there's lots of drone shots, so Matt was saying. I'm certainly going to check it out because I love all this sort of stuff.
If you look for sort of RAF Chilmark on YouTube, there's lots and lots of videos. So I share a small unit here with a friend, and we just do these sort of little weird and wonderful projects.
But yeah, it sounds like we're going to go for a drive.
Absolutely.
Let's go. It's really, really smooth, this car, which kind of complements the gorgeous exterior. And although, you know, like you said, there's a couple of suspension noises, yeah, it does feel really, really nice from the passenger side. How have you thought, what's the handling like on the vehicle?
It handles really nicely. This is not a racing car. This is its natural habitat now. Small little country lanes, beautiful little villages. Yeah. You don't want to be sort of tearing around in it, but it handles well. It stops well. Slightly undervolted, so it's in a way not having that huge amount of power at the back. It's not likely to flip ends or anything like that. So it's not an animal. It's a very pleasant place to be sat.
Yeah, and I can see that got some rather beautiful dials in front of us here, which are done by Peterson, which I know do a lot of the EV conversion dials. What would they like to deal with?
No, fantastic. We wanted to try to retain the sort of classic look of the Cobra. Obviously nothing like an original big American V8, but certainly the interior and the outside we wanted to be very sleek, very classic, and the gauges are a big part of that. And they've done a spectacular job. They're plug and play pretty much. It comes with a beautiful kind of ECU, very simple to wire up. They come at a cost, but you know they are spectacularly pretty gauges.
Wow.
Yeah, it's not slow.
Yeah, that goes well. It's all about having that punch, isn't it? That torque, instant torque. What's it like from standstill? Do you know roughly what the 0 to 60 is?
I haven't tried it. I don't think it's going to be anything particularly exciting. Probably sort of around the, don't know, 5.5, 6. I'd imagine I've driven quite a few standard Cobras, and it feels sort of pretty similar to that without the noise.
Yeah.
Obviously, with more battery, it would, you'd have a lot more performance, but it's more than enough for what the owners want, and it's not slow. Yeah, it's a light car, it's 1,600 kilos, so the normal Quendon Cobras come in at about 1,450 kilos, and this is just under 1,600, and it's pretty much 50-50 like weight distribution.
Wow,
so
okay.
it's not a heavy car by any stretch of imagination.
Yeah.
Still very, quick enough.
Yeah, that's goes well, very well. It's nice and progressive as well.
Yeah, again, there's some parameters you can tweak with that. It kind of feels to me like it could do a little bit more off the line.
Yeah.
It almost feels like driving a turbocharged car a bit, that all the power seems to come in a little bit later than I would like.
Yeah.
I feel like now I could do a bit more, and I think there's some settings you can tweak in open inverter to do that, but again, I'm hoping I can get some time with my expert friend on that one at some point.
But you say about having more power lower down. I mean, you could argue that for someone who's not maybe as much of a car enthusiast, that might not be a wise idea in terms of if you put your foot down, not necessarily on purpose, mid-corner, that could, certainly my cup of tea. I love a bit sideways, but it's not for everyone. So maybe having that progressive could suit certain drivers, perhaps.
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, a friend of mine drove this the other day, and he said he wouldn't change it. But
oh, there we go.
There's a kind of bit of a concern about what electric actually means, but I think defy many people not to drive a car like this and not enjoy it. It's a lovely place to be sat, and if this is the future, I don't think it's something we need to be too disappointed about.
I wasn't expecting this, but I'm getting to drive the Electric Cobra. Wow. Okay, so brake, accelerator, mirrors, good to go. So foot on the brake, into D.
Yeah,
handbrake.
That's it. Hill start.
Yep. Wasn't expecting that. Wow, the steering is really nice and light. It's actually really nice to drive this car because I've not actually driven anything similar to what my TVR might be like. Although I know that the suspension's not going to be anywhere close to being as nice, as good as this. And it's obviously a different drive unit, etc. But it's probably the closest I've come, and I really appreciate the opportunity, really. I think with a touch of regen, I think that would really help transform a little bit. Oh, it's all right. The Mini's curbing its wheels. I'm certainly not going to be curbing the wheels on this. Yeah, I think that's what I'm missing, just that little bit of regen. I think that would make me a little bit more comfortable in it, just from what I'm used to.
Yeah, hopefully by the end of this week we'll get the opportunity.
Yeah, she picks up really nicely.
Yeah. It's a bit strange with the pedal because there's I think my understanding of how the open inverter software works is it uses sort of the first 25% or so of the throttle travel for regen. So it feels like you're moving the throttle a long way before anything exciting starts to happen. So it does take a little bit of getting used to.
Right. But I do love the feel of the suspension. It's not firm. It feels really good. Really good. I bet hacking through these S-bends would be fun as well.
It's just the potholes you have to avoid.
Yeah, there's quite a few of those, isn't there? I'll tell you what would, if you're not sure about the squeaky noises, you could always put an amplified exhaust noise on it.
That's it.
Oh, the brakes aren't good.
Yeah, I've got a very expensive high-spec kit to fit. Yeah. I kind of wish I hadn't.
Well, I'm pretty sure my TVR could take them. So there we have it. What an amazing bit of kit. I'm so fortunate to drive this amazing beast that Matt has put so many hours into, and obviously the true owner, you know, the money to essentially build a sensational electric sports car. So yeah, epic. Matt, thank you so much for not only telling us all about this wonderful machine, about, you know, your background and skill set, taking us for a drive, and obviously letting me have a spin. It's been absolutely well worth the trip. Thank you so much, and we hope the Chargeheads, I'm sure, and any, you know, EV enthusiast and car enthusiast will get to see this vehicle in the metal and see some more work from yourself.
Yeah, hopefully. It's been, I've learned so much by doing it. Really enjoyed it. It's been 3 years graft, but certainly very pleased with the outcome, and hopefully it'll go on to be enjoyed by several other people.
Good man. All right, thanks Matt. Cheers.
My pleasure. Cheers.